His career has had ups and downs, and right now it's definitely on an upswing. If you've heard his latest album, who hasn't heard his latest album? A handful. That's great, because you're in for a treat. I think it's the best work he's done ever. Anyway, without further ado, Gary Numan. We'll just launch right into the questions then. Most of your fans and even your critics agree that your latest album, Splinter, is some of the finest work you've ever done. After all these years, how do you account for how it connects so effectively with listeners?
Well, it took a long time to make. It's been 7 years since the last album proper, and I wonder if the gap between the two allowed me to hear many, many things, that have helped me to evolve more. It's really difficult to say. A lot has happened. A lot of very unfortunate things, I guess, happened after the last one. I had this depression. I went into a depression for 3 or 4 years and had medication for that. I didn't write a song for at least 3 years, maybe 4. I had a family. I went from having no children and a really free and easy kind of excited life to having 3 children very quickly, which changed everything. And it was brilliant before. My life was, that's how they come out wrong. But you could do what you like. You got up when you felt like it. It's just brilliant. And then kids come along, and you're getting up you're getting up all through the night for a while, and then you're getting up at 6. And everything that you do is for them, not for you anymore. Gemma, my wife, had postnatal depression with the pregnancy of the second one, and she just got really angry about everything all the time, and that continued right through to the 3rd baby and beyond. So we were struggling. I was being a bit childish about that. Why don't you love me the way you used to? Well, that's which is just stupid and childish.
So she had 4 children.
No, I said that. I'm a single parent of 4 at times. But mostly that was my fault. I should have understood better and been more supportive than I was. But I was struggling with my own thing. I turned 50, which I thought I'd sailed through that really easily. But I hadn't at all. I had all sorts of problems with that, and I started to panic about being old, dying. You reach a point when the end of your life is closer than the first, and it's an undeniable thing. And it really bothered me in a way that I was really embarrassed by, and I didn't understand it really, because there had been no signs of that. I've done lots of stuff. I was an aerobatic display pilot for years. I've seen more of my friends have been killed than are still alive in accidents and crashes. So I've been around danger and death a lot in my life, and it's been an exciting thing in a strange way. But when I got to this age, it's the inevitability of it really hit me. Anyway, so that was going on. I've always been very, very close to my family. My dad managed me for about 30 years. And then we had a falling out, a really bad one. We hardly spoke for about 2 years, nearly 3 years actually. And that hit me really hard. That was horrible. My mum had cancer when all this was going on, and I was massively torn, struggling with being a parent. Anyway, sorry, it's a very long, waffly answer to the fact that it took a long time before we even started on a new album. I don't think I started it seriously in 2012, which is 6 years after the last one, which is ridiculous. And I had people around me, Gemma and friends. They did an intervention, which is not a very English thing, really. They did an intervention, and they took me out to a pub, And they say, you know, best place to be intervened. They sat me down and said, you know, your career's going down the toilet. You haven't written anything for years. Fans are losing interest. You know, your ticket sales are going down because you're just doing the same old songs every time when you play live. You don't care. You know, we were going to do the Coachella Festival, which for me would have been an amazingly good thing to happen. And that Icelandic volcano blew up. So we couldn't fly, so we didn't get there. So we waited at the hotel to see if we can get out of the airport or not, and got the news that it was definitely off, which was, you know, borderline catastrophic for me at that point. And I just went, oh well, let's go out. Didn't give a shit. Didn't give a shit. And that's one of the problems with it. The cure for depression, I found, it flattens you. It takes away the highs and the lows, and you're left this little bit in the middle that you kind of operate in. And you don't react to good news, and you don't react to bad news. You're just, Gemma calls it my Forrest Gump years. And you just bland along in this middle little thing, but you don't care about anything. You don't care that you haven't written songs. You don't care that Coachella blew out, or that your career's going down the toilet. You don't care. You're kind of happy and contented, and you're taking your pills, and life is just lovely, but it's moving around you. It's not going through you. The way it did before.
So, I bet she cared.
Pardon?
I bet she cared. That
yeah, well, she went off me.
Yeah.
On every level, apparently. So that was a bit odd. And it was that, when she said that, that was the thing that shook me.
Yeah.
And so I started to come out of that and, you know, back off on the pills and back on the pills, and slowly real life comes back. And then I started to work on the album, but then I had all this stuff, all these things that have gone on. You know, we nearly split up. The children had changed everything, my mum and dad, you know, all these things that were horrible things, some of them. But there's so much stuff to write about. And then when it started, poured. Absolutely.
Came pouring up.
Yeah, yeah. And then I immigrated in the middle of all that. That was a big thing. So I got stuck into the album, which was pretty cool. And then I got my green card to come here. So that kind of stopped progress for a bit, because I had to move.
Takes a lot of your time.
It did a bit, yeah. So I got here, got a new studio set up as quickly as possible, and then cracked on. And the second half of the album was done within maybe 2 months, 3 months. I mean, it really was quick when it started.
It did come forward.
But why people are saying it's so good, which I'm really grateful for. And it's you know, I've made 20, I think, and to be at I mean, I'm 55 now, so to get to this age, when most people that have had long careers, especially ones that have been up and down like mine, they do seem to sort of bland out a bit. They get, not everyone, but they seem to get sort of safer somehow as they get older. And I've kind of gone the other way. I've got heavier and heavier and darker and darker. And I don't know, it's as if I found where I belonged, and I regret that I ever moved away from it before, really. I see a definite connection between what I'm doing now and what I did when I first started with cars and, I think you like cars maybe, but that sort of the heavy electronic thing I started with. And then the career started to go downhill fairly quickly. It did really well to start, had an amazing beginning, and it just went, and it carried on going for such a long time. And I really struggled with it, you know. But anyway, sorry, I'm waffling again. I'm not entirely sure why the album's come out as good as it has. I do think the gap has been something to do with it. But why beyond that, I honestly couldn't say. I'm just glad it has. Really, I'm so grateful that people are saying the things about it that they are. It got into the chart in Britain, the first chart album I've had in 30 years in Britain, which is, for me was an amazing thing.
I think everybody here is glad that it worked out the way it worked out. It really is a fine album. It seemed to me that after your initial hits, that you were struggling to try to please other people. That you were looking for a new persona, a new voice, and following people's advice about what you should be doing? Is that?
Well, I was pretty arrogantly focused before. I thought I knew exactly where I wanted to be and what I needed to do to get there. And for the first few years, it worked really well. So I think I built up an unhealthy sort of confidence on my own instinct. And I didn't have an instinct at all, I would just be really lucky.
Yeah.
And then I started to make decisions based on the fact that I thought I had this infallible instinct as to what I should do next. Fucking hell, made so many mistakes.
Well, you were so young.
Yeah, but I was young, but I made mistake after mistake. Well, actually, no mistakes. I made some decisions, musical decisions. I wanted to do different things.
Okay.
I wanted to go off and do, that sort of music and that sort of music, and bring different things in. And I had people saying to me, kiss of death, don't be doing that.
Just the opposite of what I thought.
No, I meandered all over the place. So they were mistakes from a commercial point of view, because I should have been making more pop-orientated albums, and now I didn't. I started to drift around to all this other stuff. But good from a musical point of view, good for me as a musician, as a songwriter, to learn that. But I did plenty of other things that were mistakes. And then the career started to suffer really badly. And then I panicked. Yeah, people say that you sell out when you sell a lot of albums. You suddenly become successful, you sold out. And you really haven't. You haven't at all, because you've probably done something that's been successful that you did at home in your bedroom, and it was as honest as anything can be. I think you sell out later. When a career starts to slide, as mine did, I didn't stay true to myself, and then I started to listen to advice, and I think that was a kiss of death for me. People, A&R people at record companies, or PR people, I'll do a ballad. Ballads are doing really good at charting. Oh, okay. Before I said, bollocks, I want to do this, I'm doing this, that's what I'm doing, I'm not listening to anyone. Do what I want, arrogant perhaps, but focused. And but I stopped doing that. I said, all right, do a ballad, or do a Prince cover. Oh, really? Oh, I love, I think it's brilliant and amazing, but I shouldn't have been doing Prince covers. Well, one thing I did resist, they said to me, that song, I was born one morning when the sun didn't shine, picked up a shovel, that one. They wanted me to do that. And they said, but do it that Gary Numan way. What the fuck? So at least I resisted that. Prince was like a compromise.
There is no Gary Numan way to do that. So.
I'm not doing it. No. But that's the moment. There was advice coming in, and some of it was ridiculous. Most of it I started listening to. And that direction that you were going in, think of it as a road. You know the road that you want to follow. And you step off it. As soon as you listen to advice, you step off it. And you've only got to listen to 2 or 3 things, and you're lost. You're not doing what you love anymore. Yeah. And if you stay off there long enough, it gets foggy, and you forget. You don't know what you want to do anymore. You don't know how you want to sound, or what you want to sing about, how you want to look. You lose everything. And that's what happened to me. So I call them my middle years. And music got shitter and shitter. I got more and more lost with the whole thing. And I did an album called Machine of Soul in '92, which was a pile of poo. A terrible record. But it's all I could do. That was what I had at the time. But it was so bad, then it made me stop. And at that point, I gave up. I thought I was finished. I didn't have a record contract. I'd lost that. We put out a single, around about then, that sold less copies than the first single I ever released when I was a complete unknown. Ticket sales were down to the hundreds in England, where I was more successful. Really, really rubbish. So I went back to doing it for a hobby. Gave up.
What did you do for a living?
Well, I had a bit of savings.
So you retired?
Yeah, well, I still carried on making music, but in terms of earning a living from it, it wasn't happening. I lived in borrowed money. I ran up a debt of $600,000, $1 million in that period. And I had no income really, no career really, to ever see a way of being able to pay that back. So it was so scary and so frightening. They were trying to repossess my house. I was trying to convince people that I was bizarre and I had a sofa at home and all the springs had gone and I couldn't afford another one, so I put a big bit of wood across it and had the cushions on top of that and tried to pretend I was eccentric, and I liked it like that. And that's when I met Gemma. So that's what she came into. I had a little 12-inch TV on a stool in the kitchen. That's why she bought my shopping for the first year we were together because I didn't have any money. Couldn't get any money out of it. But it was Gemma that started to introduce me to music that I was very popular, but it just escaped me for some reason. The Depeche Mode album, Songs of Faith and Devotion, which I thought was amazing. 9 Inch Nails, obviously, she introduced me to 9 Inch Nails and what Trent was doing. And much more than that. I've never been very confident, even though I've had, in England, I've had #1 singles, and now I've done all right. I've never been very confident. And I've never liked my voice very much, for example, and I know I can't play keyboards or guitar very well. I'll play enough to write songs, but I would never get a job in someone else's band. I don't think, not as a player, not necessarily as a crap band. So I've always been really aware of that, aware of my limitations, and I always thought I was lucky to get successful. You know, I didn't think I'd done anything particularly worthy. I thought cars took me 10 minutes. It doesn't make you feel like you've done anything special. Do you know what I mean? I know it did well and all that, but it was a piece of piss, man. I went to learn to play bass guitar better. Well, I don't. And so I went to London, bought myself a bass guitar called a Shergold modulator, still got it actually. Came home, opened the case, I lived at my mum's house, opened the case, pulled it out, the very first thing I wrote, do-do-do-do. I thought, oh, that sounds alright. Do-do-do-do, do-do-do-do-do. Very first thing I wrote, I didn't even do anything and think, oh, that doesn't work. Everything was right. There's only 3 bits in cars, they were the first 3 things I did. So,
if only you could do that every time.
There's so much for talent. Yeah, it was just lucky. Just I stumbled across it. Same as I stumbled across a synthesizer. I was put into a studio to make my first album, and we were a punk band, a 3-piece punk band, and we were signed as a punk band. I went to the studio to make my first punk album, which should have been what was our live set, effectively. 1,000 songs from the live set. And I get to the studio, walk into the control room, and there's a mini Moog sitting in the corner. I've never seen a real one before, but I'm a bit geeky for technology. So I thought, oh, look at that, one of those dials and switches. And I said to the man, do you mind, can I have a go? You know, and he, okay. I think it was waiting to be collected by a hire company. I can't remember for sure, but it wasn't, I didn't think it was going to be there for very long. So they turned it on, and I pressed the key. Now, I didn't know how to set them up, so whatever it was left on, the people before, that's what I pressed. And it was amazing. It was the heaviest, biggest sound I'd ever heard. The whole room shook. You vibrating, it just blew me away. You know, oh, that's for me. But what to do? I didn't. The other thing was, I suppose, it could have been left on one of those sounds that went. Yeah, I didn't walk back to being a punk rocker. But so I couldn't even read it. And who left it on that? Who was there before that? I'll never know. Changed my life. Changed my life. So anyway, so synthesizer doing its thing, and they let me use it all day. So now I'm trying to hastily rework these punk songs in a few hours. I think I've got this thing. So instead of now going na 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 na, they're now going and then oh, it's rubbish, oh, that sounds good. Stick that on something. It was as amateurish as that.
But you learned to twist the knobs. You learned to create your own sounds.
Yeah, but it's a stumbling process.
Well, I think back then it was for everybody, absolutely everybody. Nobody knew what they were doing. They started twisting knobs and, oh, I like the sound of that. I'll write down these settings and remember those.
But it's got they have these things written on them like emphasis, contour, envelope, ADSR. Wow. I have no idea what it means. I was doing interviews with like technology magazines, and they would say, so what do you think about the contour shape of the Mark IV? I'm going, oh, it's a bit harsh. What the fuck are they doing? I've flagged my way through everything for 2 or 3 years. It was
with Abe Fenton for several years now. What was his role on Splinter?
Abe produces. Yeah. When we first started working together, we did an album called Jagged, the one before, the Depression Gift You actually. And on that, it was co-producing, because I still felt that I did a great deal of it myself. And he'd never produced an album before, not normal stuff.
Before Jagged?
No, he'd done his own techno thing, but he'd never done what he calls proper music. I think that's an effect, that's what he said. So I was slightly wary. I gave him one song. How it started, he'd done all his techno stuff, which I never liked. He would come down and play it. Oh, no, it's not for me. And then he brought down some other stuff, which was really heavy, very different. And I saw over a space of about 2 or 3 months how he evolved it. And it was really impressive. And so I was aware that he was learning skills rapidly. So I was working on this previous album. I gave him one song called Scanner, I think. I said, well, off you go with that, and then see how you get on. And he came back a week or so later, and it was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. But I still couldn't quite believe it, because he'd just been this nerdy mate that I know, from before. So I gave him another one. I said, no, 2 actually, gave him another 2, off you go. And they come back brilliant. So now I'm confident, so we do the whole album together, but I still want to, we'll do it together. Then we did another one, we did a side project actually called Descent Rising a few years back, which he was so involved in that we decided to do it as a co-written thing, because his input was phenomenal. And this is when I was doing the whole depression thing, so I was a nightmare to work with. I kept pulling away from it and not liking it, getting weird. So when it came time to do Splinter, his production skills have just gone up and up and up. He is so clever and so creative. And I've been able to step back slightly from trying to get on top of the technology.
How nice for you. That's perfect.
Well, yeah, no, I sort of know it well enough to shape things and put the songs together, and if I really had to, I could do it myself. But he definitely understands it better than me, and he definitely gets more out of it than me. But beyond just understanding the technology, he's very, very creative as well. He does his own writing, he's his own album out, and he brings something to it. We both have very, very similar tastes in music. He's been a fan of mine forever, so he really understands my back catalogue on what I do. The way it works is I like to see the children at the weekends, so I work Monday to Friday. It sounds a little bit business-like, but it works. So Monday I go in, I write the melody, get it all worked out. The next day I start fleshing out, maybe Wednesday as well. Thursday I do a gobbledygook vocal with no lyrics, just singing noises and things that come together. And then start working on the lyrics themselves. Friday, if it's gone well, finish the lyrics, do the vocal, send it to Wade. So that's kind of how it works. He then gets it in England, and then he starts producing it and doing all these things. But he will then take it in different directions. There's a song on the album called Here in the Black. We had 32 different versions of that song before we finished it. At one point, I think I had 8 different choruses, all stacked up. I couldn't pick the one. I kept thinking it must be better, must be better. And that's where he's brilliant, because he'll come in and he'll be like a sounding board.
That's what a producer does?
But more than that, he will take things, and he will take a song in a completely different direction at times, which at times is annoying.
Well, you have some say-so there.
Yeah, yeah, and I've learnt now to let that go. You know, but before I'd have just said, no, that's not what I sent you. You know, polish what I send you. Don't go off on these little tangents because it just wastes time.
But you've learned to trust the
Yeah, now I know that not to do that. Leave it for a week.
Yeah.
Don't react initially because, you know, it can be a bit hostile. But let it go for a week. You know, sometimes it still is wrong for me and we'll bring it back. Other times it isn't. And then it'll come back to me and that'll take me in a different direction. And so it allows these things to develop in a way that they probably wouldn't have done before. And I'm less of a control freak than I used to be. And I think that's been helpful to allow these other things, to allow these other clever people to have a say in what you do. But there's a point when it stops feeling like yours. So it's very important to keep it within that. And that's what didn't happen with Dead Sun Rising. With Dead Sun Rising, it got so far. I said, look, this isn't just me anymore. This is as much you. So we had it as a joint thing. It went out as Gary Numan. Unfortunately, that's because I didn't want to put his name on it for some reason. But it was a joint project.
You say it's been 7 albums since your last legitimate album. What was Dead Sun Rising? Where did that come from?
So it was a side project. It's been 7 years since Jaded. And I did Dead Sun Rising I did that with Aid as a side project, and that was me coming out of the depression. That was the way I started to write again. So that's why it was a bit of a nightmare project.
So you don't consider it a proper album?
Oh yeah, it's a proper album, but it's not a true Gary Numan album.
Oh,
it's a
collaboration.
Yeah, it's a collaboration. Okay.
I get it. Who played more of the keyboards on Splinter?
Me, probably. Yeah. Well, I all of the main parts I write. The melodies I write, all of the counterlines, all the instrumental parts, everything I write. Aid will come in and do some bits. So, you know, Aid is the big one for the drums. Most of the drums.
I wondered about that because I think the drum tracks really propel the album.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they give it a lot of its, forward motion, and those were. He was responsible for that?
Yeah, he's amazing at drum programming. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm still stuck using loops. Lazy.
One thing that makes this album and many of your albums interesting is, you always bring something fresh, something that we haven't heard before. Not from you, not from anybody. And where do you find new sounds?
The reason I got into electronic music in the first place was because it was the only genre where the sound itself was as important as the melody that you played. Guitars are amazing, and my favourite instrument is guitar actually, but you can plug it into pedals and mess about with it a little bit, but it's always going to be a guitar, it's always going to have a certain kind of sound, as will drums, as will bass, as will most things. Synthesizers, electronic music, enable you to create entirely new sounds that the world has never heard before. And I found that fascinating, and it was a thing that drew me into it. And it's the reason that I've stayed in it, and the thing that I still find the most exciting about it. So before any new album, I will spend weeks, months sometimes. I have one of the little portable recorders, and I go around and I do this. Different. Record it, or you bang, you do anything. You find bits of metal and you drag them. You just walk around your environment, recording hundreds, if not thousands, of different noises, drags, scrapes, bangs, whatever it might be. And then you take them back and you put them into the computer and you start to mess with them. And you build up this vast kind of volume of things. And most of it is stuff you've never heard. You manipulate, you do all kinds of things. And so you have this library of unique sounds that you can use. So some of them are done more conventionally than that, some of them will be done by instruments and you manipulate and do what you do. But I've always really enjoyed just going around just banging and scraping things and trying to
Sounds like fun.
Trying to find a way of making it music is a bit of a trick. It's not easily done always. But that's the fun of it for me, is trying to create new sounds. And sometimes I do it quite well, and sometimes I don't. To be honest, there's albums where they've not been as cool as they could be, and where I have used things I've used before, which is I'm a bit ashamed of. Because some albums are better than others, and sometimes you do it. But as a general principle, I try to make sure that pretty much every sound on the album is one that I've not used before. I don't always succeed by any means, but that's the way I set out to do it. And it's an important part of it for me.
You mentioned that, I think it was almost exactly a year ago, you immigrated to the United States, settled in the Los Angeles area. Why did you make that decision, and how have you and your family adjusted?
Well, the biggest reason was my wife wanted to live here since she was born, really. Okay. So there's kind of that subtle, everyday, relentless pressure. Yeah.
Subtle?
Oh, really subtle. Like, when are we moving? That's something that come up on the television. American comedy or cop show. A siren, we'd be watching TV and there'd be a police car, an American police car come, she'd start crying. Yeah, geographic crime.
I've never been there.
Yeah, so that was a part of it, and it was a very, very big thing to her. So it's an important thing. I'd always wanted my children to grow up English, and after a while I couldn't think why. I honestly didn't. I had this thing about English, because I'm very proud to be English. And then I couldn't remember why. Why are you proud to be English? Done some amazing things as a little country, stuck up there in the cold bit.
We speak their language.
Yeah, sorry about that. When you say you speak it. Water is spelt with a T. Deep water. Small point, but quite important. But I'm really proud of the things that we've done. As I say, for a tiny little nation, I know you're not big on empire and all that, but it's quite a cool thing, isn't it? To own half the world and you're just this tiny dot. It sort of shows initiative, I think. All kinds of stuff to be proud of, Parliament. But not particularly proud of what it's become. I'm not particularly proud of where it's going, to be honest. And I feel really bad saying stuff like that, and maybe it'll change. But anyway, I started to look. My wife was walking up our local street with my children, and got followed by a gang of kids who were all telling her what they'd like to do to her sexually. At which point she turned around and went, "Come on then, who's first?" And they all ran away. I thought she dealt with it quite well. Really.
With the children?
With the children, yeah. And I thought that was terrible.
Yes.
A terrible thing to do. And it just seemed that there isn't, even that, we live in a really nice little quiet corner in Sussex, it's very lovely. And even there's yobs and trouble and offensiveness, and it's lost its charm, that's for sure. And there was something else. I know that this is such a small reason to base moving your entire family to a new country, but we was on holiday somewhere, and there was some American teenagers there, and we asked them for directions, and they told us. If that had been England, they'd have either beaten us up, certainly sent us in the wrong fucking direction, and nicked our purse or what they were doing it, not talk to us at all. One of those for sure. And yet I thought, how lovely is that? They actually told us the right way to get to where we're going. And I thought, maybe my children would be better mixing with these people. Shitheads at home. So that was, I know it seems silly, but it really did make a difference. It made me think differently. The weather, obviously, it just rains. Last year, the wettest spring on record, 110 days I think it was, it rained every single day. You get sick of it. And when you get to my age, I know I'm not nearly dead, but it's getting closer. And you want every day of your life to be full. You don't want to be sitting indoors looking at puddles. And that's what you're doing. And the children are trapped indoors. They can't. All these things you plan, it's all cancelled because it rains. You just think, and it's always grey. That's why English people are so miserable. So I got no quality service. Yeah, no one's always brilliant about it here. So, you know this thing about wishing you have a nice day. Yeah, I don't care whether it's genuine or not, because it feels nice. And the English are so cynical, so they say, they don't mean it. When they say have a nice day, they don't mean it. But then when they say you're welcome, they don't mean it. I don't care. I don't care. I'd rather have insincere pleasantness than sincere misery. I do think you mean it. You're really nice people. I love America. And if it's not sincere, when's the nasty bit going to come out? Is it, I've been here a year, and suddenly you go, you're not welcome, actually. You're not a tourist, piss off. It's not like that. It is lovely. It's really lovely. And when you're not like that, if you get food served to you in England, it never quite reaches the table. The last 2 inches, it's let go. And don't dare ask for a clean knife.
You might get it back.
Yeah. No, we're horrible people. You must come and visit. I work for the English Tourist Board.
So everybody in the family is happy with the decision to move here?
Oh, me and the wife and the children are very happy, yeah. My mum and dad were a bit upset. We made up.
That's an awful long way from England.
We made up, and that made the leaving much harder, because I love them, obviously. But no, the children are very happy. They went to a school in England called a Steiner School, which is a very particular kind of education. It focuses more on arts than it does on maths and English. I mean, they do all that, but it's not top of the tree in what you have to achieve. They don't have exams in the early years anyway, because they don't want any hierarchy of who's best and who isn't. It's a really gentle, lovely thing. And we went to this sort of school in England for a few years, and so when we came here, it's global, though it's Germany by originality. We found a school here in Northridge, in the Valley, in Los Angeles. So you put a dot there, and then you draw a circle around, and that's where you're going to live, really, because you don't want those big long car journeys through the traffic. And so that's why we ended up there. We found the school first, and the children came over and they had a 2-day visit at the school, and loved it. And it's such a cool place. There's mountains. Yeah, it's really lovely. Let's say the weather's nice, and they're really happy. Got a swimming pool. It's warm. Yeah, I wake up in the morning and I walk out. We've got a balcony. I walk out to the balcony, and there's mountains, and there's palm trees, and a swimming pool, and people will wave to you and be nice.
And say, have a nice day?
Yeah, and I'm welcome apparently. And it's just so lovely, and it's so different. I wish to God I'd done it when I first met Gemma. I really do. The life here is so much more positive. The people are so much more positive and agreeable and accommodating. I feel like I've wasted, maybe that's a bit strong, but I just wish I'd done it sooner.
Do you feel like she was right all along and you should have listened to her?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Sure. She'll never let me forget.
Oh, I don't blame her. I don't blame her. Looking back at the past, your life changed very suddenly in 1979 and the years after that. How has your attitude toward your old songs evolved over the years since then?
Well, Cars obviously did very well here.
Yes.
In England, there's a song called After Electric, and Cars did very well there. And they were so big, and Cars in particular has lasted, well, it's still going.
Oh, absolutely.
And it creates a shadow that colours everything else that you do.
So you never escape it.
Initially you're quite proud of it, and you're enjoying the success of it. And then it feels like it gets in the way a bit. If you go to a radio station, you arrive there and they introduce you by playing Cars, and then you talk a bit, and then as you leave they play After Electric. Don't play the new stuff. And you almost feel resentful about something that's actually done a huge amount for you, but you do, because it gets in the way. There was a TV show in England called The White Room, and you record when it was around, it was a really important, cool show to do, everybody wanted to do it. And this was when my career was going really badly, so for me it was like a lifeline, a really important thing to get. And they said, you record 3 songs and they transmit 2 of them. One of them is a backup. And they said, but we want you to do Cars, Arc into Electric, and then a song of your choice. Oh, here we go. So I said, well, no, you're just going to show Cars, Arc into Electric. It's not going to do me any good at all. It's going to look like they're the only 2 songs I've ever written. It won't help the new album. What's the point? It just makes me look bad. So I'm not doing it. So the director rang me up and said, look, no, I absolutely promise you, we will play one of them, Cars of Rock Rented Electric, but we'll definitely play the new song as well. So,
was that good enough?
All right, yeah, well, I took it on faith, and we did it, and, sure as fuck, Cars of Rock Rented Electric. And you just think, And then you see that then the newspaper said, Gary Numan was on it, trying out the same old shit that he's on. You're the only one that's not trying to do that. But all these obstacles, one after another. And it was really difficult. So in the end, I just stopped doing anything at all, unless there was an absolute written guarantee. So, and that was at a time when I was desperately needing to do anything I could get hold of. But you can't, because it cements you in an era. Whenever a photograph would say 80s pop, you're cemented in an era, and it's very, very, very difficult to break out of that. And the only way you can do it is to have nothing to do with nostalgia.
Well, yeah, there's so many artists living on their past glory, and you don't want to fall into that.
Can't do that. All those retro tours, these here and nows, whatever they're called, Here and now.
I could never see
you
do
it. You can't do it. It's kiss of death. It really does. Yeah, and those TV shows, I don't know if you get it here, but what's it called? The one where they go off to the jungle, I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out for You, and Big Brothers, and all these TV shows where failing celebrities go on to try to resurrect their career. I get asked to do them all the time.
Oh, no. So you get this week's failing celebrity.
You can't do it.
Yeah.
Just by going on them, you're saying, look at me, I'm in trouble. So even if you are in trouble, which I was, you can't do that. So you've got to be so careful. You mustn't do the thing that's in front of your face. You've got to look 5 years, 10 years further down the line, and you're building towards that recovery. And you have to ignore all this stuff, because if you do this, you'll never get to that, because this will finish you completely. So it's been a torturous and time-consuming thing, and it's been very, very risky. And there's been so many times where I wondered if I'd done the right thing, up until fairly recently, really. But now, with this album, and the way things are going at the moment, I'm moving here, and it's just feels like a new start in life. Back in the chart in Britain, getting amazing reviews for the album.
I'm not surprised.
Being out with 9 Inch Nails is so cool. It feels now as if I'm just knocking on the door of that distant thing. So
that must feel great.
Yeah, well, I'm still scared.
Okay.
So I'm only knocking on the door. I feel like I'm so close now.
Well, you found the door.
Getting it back into it.
Brian Eno was here a couple of years ago, and I asked him about his production and how he's making his own music. He said that he had put all his studio processors, he was giving his studio processors away. He put his old mini modes and synthesizers in the closet, and he was doing it all with software now. The next day, Moby said he wouldn't have anything to do with software, he was doing it all with hardware, he was recording 24-track tapes. Where do you fall along that software-hardware divide?
I don't see why people have to make any comments about it at all. Just use what you want. There's some amazingly good software, and there's some amazingly good hardware at all. And then you've got silly idiots like me going around kicking things at the recorder.
But then you process the sounds with software, I think.
Or pedals.
Oh.
You particularly for guitar pedals, anything you like. It's all about making noises. Who gives a shit about whether it's digital or analog or software or hardware? I don't care. I don't care. If the noise at the end of it is a cool noise, that's the only thing that matters.
When when you do use software, when you're starting a project, what's the first thing you reach for? What do you boot up?
There's a bit of software that a company with Native Instruments do. Well, actually, no, it's not just Native Instruments, but it's that they do. There's a thing with damage, mutations, evolved mutations. There's all kinds of little things that run through Contact, which is really, really cool.
It's an American company.
Very powerful. Yeah. Is it?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Is it really?
Okay. Yeah, they do a ball. Yeah. I think they're in Massachusetts. Anyway.
Well, anyway, they're great. The Spectrasonics, I think they're definitely American.
Oh, yes.
It's amazing stuff. Omnisphere, probably the best.
I love Omnisphere.
Best thing ever. Software, amazing.
Do you modify the sounds much, or just take what comes right out of the box?
No, you've got to modify them.
Yeah. Make them your own.
Well, yeah, to a point, yeah.
Otherwise, you sound like everybody else. Oh, I've got that sound.
Yeah.
Why doesn't he do something original?
I bet Mr. Spectrasonics will still notice it though.
Oh, yes.
But yeah, you do. You have to change them a little bit.
You have a reputation for looking forward rather than back. What do you think you'll be doing, or what do you want to be doing 5 or 10 years from now?
Well, I want to still be doing this. I love this. Yeah. Touring, making albums, touring. I love it as much now, if not more, than I did as a teenager when I started out. I really, really love it. I wasn't always so cool with touring. It took me a long time to learn how to do it. I was really shy at first and really awkward, but I did get used to it, and I love it now. It's like a schoolboy's day out. You have those trips and you're a kid, there's school trips, and you'll go out on the bus and you're at the back of the bus being childish. Well, that's kind of what it's like still. I never grew up, so I love that. I like the travelling. I like going to new places. I don't often see as much of them as you would like, but I love that anyway. The band and my closest friends, so everyone gets on really, really well. Being on stage, playing your songs to people that in the main like them. It's a lovely thing to do. People clapping and cheering at you, it makes you feel cool and lovely. You can earn a living from it. I can't think of anything that I'd rather do, really. But I know I'm getting older, and I know that there is an end, probably, an end of that coming. I think that there'll come a day when you wake up and you look in the mirror and it's just too much. Honestly, what I do, it's all a little bit angry, doing all that. And there comes a point when you just look so old that you just look silly. You can't get really old and be angry because you look pathetic. And so I know that's coming. And
the Rolling Stones get away with it.
Oh yeah, but do that. I shouldn't have. It's just someone that in England there was a newspaper article where they did these massive shows in England, and there's a picture of Mick Jagger and Keith Richards. I shouldn't laugh, it's so cruel. And it had Night of the Living Dead. I did laugh, I have to admit. I don't want to be like that. I don't want anyone to
make fun of you.
So maybe 5 years I'll have to be stopping it. But one of the other reasons for coming to America is with this in mind, what you're going to do next that you would find challenging and exciting, and you could write the things you want to write. It's film music. If I could...
Oh, you're in the perfect place for it.
Well, yeah, again, Los Angeles, what better place to be? And already, things are beginning to happen there. When this tour is finished, I go to Britain, we do a little tour in Britain, but then when I come back at the end of November, in December and January, I'm doing a film score for this little animated thing called From Inside, which for me would be a very gentle first step into it. And I could learn the terminology, I can make sure the equipment's doing it, and just get a feel for what it's all about. And it's a very no pressure, easy, laid back kind of thing. I've got friends that make film music, and I hear that it can be very difficult. Not that actually writing music is that's easy, but they're dealing with the people.
Correct.
Yeah, there could be a lot of money involved. Other people's careers are on the line. They're always stressed, and the music, as I've got, the last thing that's done is their deadlines are coming, and they come in and they just want you to change everything.
Yes.
Yeah, I've spent my whole life being my own judge.
Ah.
And now I've got to think about moving into a situation where somebody else is going to be telling me what to change, what to do. And I'm not sure I'm going to, and I'm so not tactful. When I was younger, they said I had Asperger's. I honestly don't think I do now, but I think I don't know if you grow out of it, I'm not sure if that happens, but I seem to be able to deal with it better now. But when I was younger, this whole Asperger's thing, you're so blunt.
Yes.
You don't mean it to be rude, but it comes across as rude and offensive. Well, I've still got a bit of that in me, so I'm not good at smoothing things. Somebody says something that I don't like, I just we'll talk about it, there and then. So I'm not. I think I possibly need to be a lot more tactful than I am, and it's all going to go probably wrong. I think really.
I think everybody here appreciates your opinion.
Trent's done it. I wouldn't consider Trent to be overly tactful.
He did quite well.
Yeah, he did all right, didn't he? He was lovely. I mean, he wrote my first testimonial for the immigration. He's been lovely. He's been really helpful.
Is he a good friend?
Pardon?
Is he a good friend?
Oh, well, I see a lot more of him now than we did.
Okay.
But yeah, no, he's lovely. When we first moved here, we'd only been here about a week, and he invited us round to one of his kiddies' birthday parties, introduced us to all his friends, and gave us a social life immediately. And he just made you feel welcome, And he's been lovely, actually, really, really helpful and really kind. Bringing me out on these things. He knows that for me that's a good thing.
And I know he gives you a lot of credit as being a major influence on him.
Yeah. Isn't that lovely?
It is. Because he's got quite an audience that you can build on.
Yeah, no, he's been probably more than anyone. He's been more helpful to me, and probably more than anyone, except for Gemma, has been instrumental, I think, in this sort of renaissance that I've been having over the last few years. I think Trent's been the main one, but there's been a number of people done cover versions, Foo Fighters and Manson, and other people have done cover versions of stuff, and every time that happens, it introduces you to their audience, and
even some rappers.
Yeah, and it helps to create your profile. It brings people in. They might not like what you do, they might not just drift away again, but it brings people in. It gives you that chance.
Exposure.
Yes, to get through to people, and it's so valuable, and it gives you credibility, and that is worth its weight in gold if you could weigh it. It's it's a very difficult thing to achieve, credibility, especially when my first 10 or 15 years with the press, the British press in particular, but still here to a degree, I was a laughing stock. I was a joke. If they wrote about me at all, it would be scathing.
That had to be hard. Yeah,
well, you just stop reading it now, it's easy to avoid.
Okay.
But one of the newspapers said my mum and dad should have been sterilised.
Oh!
That's a bit strong.
No. Now, if someone were in the same position you're in, you were in 1978, just before you broke, what kind of advice would you give?
It's really hard, actually. I think the best way to become successful is slowly.
You didn't have that choice.
No one has that choice, really. It's not as if you're going to turn down big TV. You grab whatever's there, but if it happens quickly, then it does. But it's a huge amount to take on board. You've done no interviews before. You've not been on television before. You've never been on radio. No one knows who you are.
You hadn't even done any big concerts.
No. The biggest gig I'd ever done was at a club. I think there was 25 people. And there was a fight and he got stopped halfway through it. That was the last gig I did before French Electric went to #1. Still living at home. I was really young. I just 20, 21, I think it was. You know, electronic music just beginning to happen, and amateurish at that. And then it all happens, and I went from being completely unknown to being #1, I think in 2 weeks. And I was, the band was called Geary Yelton. It was actually me. You know, it was just me under a different name. I wrote everything, produced everything, did the covers.
Wow.
You know, so if anyone was going to be interviewed, it would be me. I was the only one signed to the record label. Every bit of credit came to me, and every bit of hostility came to me. And it's such a weird thing. You know, you walk down the street that you've walked down for the last 20 years, and nobody knows who you are. Then all of a sudden, everybody knows who you are, and half of them are nice, and half of them aren't. You know, the amount of resentment, phenomenal. People, yeah, it's like they. I think it happens initially because it fades away. You know, I think it happens initially. I think because people seem to realise that your life has just changed dramatically, and they assume that you're very, very wealthy, which I'm not. It takes time. They assume that there's supermodels in every street corner just waiting to sleep with you, and that's certainly not true. I looked. No, I don't know. But people think that that's what it's like, and so there's a jealousy, I guess, and a resentment that comes with it, and they want to tell you that, you know, if they didn't like your song, they want to tell you. You know, like, so walking down the street becomes a hideously embarrassing sequence of people going, "Wanker!" or "Shit!" or anything they can think of, you know, while you're in front of them, and so you stop. You stop going now. You stop going to the places you went to before. Your car gets scratched. You know, my record company bought me a Corvette, which I loved to bits, and my dream car when I was a little boy. And I went back to the same, you know, pub that I'd gone to all my life. I came back out to it, trashed. Everything's slashed. And you think, what have you done? You've written a song that 1 million people liked. I've not hurt anyone. You know, I've not stolen anything. Some ideas maybe, but you know, you've not stolen it. You've not done anything horrible, and yet these people hate you. You know? They're trying to hurt you. They're trying to pick fights with you when you're out. You know, and they send their girlfriends up to bump into you, so as an excuse that you've done something wrong. You know, and I got chased out of a nightclub in New Zealand. I'd only been there about an hour. Got off the aeroplane. Dropped the bags at the hotel, went to this club because they said it played alternative music. Got in there, within a few minutes, cans started coming in to where we were sitting. Didn't know what's going on. And then people started coming in, legged it, chased up the street, and all you've done is written a song. It's a weird thing, and it's an awful lot to adjust to when you've never had anything like it before. So I think when it's a gradual rise, at each sort of stage of success, you get used to the workload. You get used to a few more people know who you are, maybe. You know, you do a few more radio interviews. You get used to them. You get used to doing IDs. You know radio IDs. You know, hey, I'm Gary Numan. You're listening to Casey. I used to find that intensely embarrassing. I couldn't do it, and I was really shit at it. I always said I was really miserable, and I just was embarrassed. And it takes, after a while, you get used to it, and it's an easy thing to do. But it takes time to learn, and that's why I think this gradual rise is so much better. So when it does come, you know, when you really do get big, you know what you're doing. You know what to say. You know how to deal with the public. You know, sometimes when people meet you for the first time, they're a bit nervous, and they don't know what to say. And they will invariably say something offensive, you know, and they don't mean to. But I didn't know that at first. I just thought people were being offensive. And, you know, what the fuck's your problem? And then you get to understand, you get to read people a little bit better. And you just learn. You learn how to do it, how to be it. And it just takes a little time, that's all. And the only regret that I've got is that I didn't have it. Didn't have that time. So what with that and having Asperger's, you know.
Well, I think you'll find that people here in Nashville, they won't scratch your car. They're very nice. And I think everyone here is very glad we had this chance to talk, and we're happy you're here.